Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Beloved brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum. We are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to be here this afternoon to experience what I consider to be a journey. All I can do is say before we get started, fasten up your seatbelt and get ready to take off to a whole new dimension in Quranic-based thinking, inshallah. As usual, as we begin, whenever we begin anything of any substance, we always begin giving acknowledgement to our Creator. So let's make dua. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim wa asr. Innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Ameen. Bismillah. Once again, we thank you for being punctual. Inshallah, we expect more people to come as the time transpires. And this is the beginning of our first session. We will have 3 sessions this weekend. And the first one begins now from 5. And tomorrow morning we start again at 9 o'clock promptly, inshallah. We go until 3. And then, of course, we have our banquet that evening. And then on Sunday, we have a ta'aleem, which is the 3rd session. And that will start at 1:30. So we are very thankful that you are here and ready to learn. Everybody has their notebooks and pencils. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. I hope you have your questions. And some of you even have some answers. And we thank Allah for that. We have some distinguished people in the house. It's everyone sitting down over there. And Imam Eric, alhamdulillah, he did the khutbah over Masjid Freehaven today. Alhamdulillah. So Allah is blessing us, to extend out. And everyone knows our wonderful Imam Benjamin Bilal, who is visiting us again. And if everybody can join me in making dua to Allah, we pray Allah make it so that he has to stay here in Philadelphia. That would really make it wonderful. So, last week he was in Wilmington, Delaware. And I like to think that we had something to do with that. And Rudolph Ali was here. I've been telling them about Imam Benjamin Bilal. So he came up to witness it for himself, and he jumped right on it. Alhamdulillah. And Imam Benjamin Bilal can tell you about how wonderful a time he had there in Wilmington, Delaware. So all we have to do now is to have him go to all the masajid within the area, and he'll be here in this area so much, he'll say, man, I just might as well move here. So let everybody know that he's available. Tell him over at Freehaven, Masjid al-Nur, Masjid Mustaqim in Chester, and inshallah we have him here all the time. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to him. And yes, ma'am.
This flyer says, I guess it's 6 a.m.
No, that's an old flyer. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock to 3. Yes, ma'am. I didn't know those got out there. But inshallah, we may be here inshallah, we'll be here for Fajr. We usually do try to have a little reading, so if anybody comes for that, inshallah, you get some information. Won't be to the same level and degree as we get now, but it'll be something, inshallah, that you can use. Alright, and without any further ado, if there are no other questions, we turn it over to our beloved Imam Benjamin Bilal. Assalamu alaikum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We also translate Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim with Allah's permission. The merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Because your name is your permission. Those who are given permission to use your name in the bank or in some other situation where it requires that they use your signature, they can only use your signature legitimately when you've given them actual permission. So when we say Bismillah, that is exactly what we're saying, that Allah has given us permission to move, to speak, to interact with His name. And what we mean by with His name is with those things that Allah has condoned for us. Those behaviors, that information, those inclinations, those tendencies, those urges that Allah created in us, that He created to be halal for us. When we move in that spirit, when we move with that kind of intelligence that has been granted to us by Allah, we are moving Bismillah. We're moving with Allah's authority, Allah's permission, Allah's granting us the permission, once again, to do what it is He has already ingrained in us to do. So this Bismillah is not a small statement. As we mentioned in the Jummah, Allah has condensed great wisdom into small phrases in the Quran. And we take them for granted, not on purpose, only because we haven't come into a more enlightened application for those statements. Imam Muhammad, may Allah forgive him any sins he had and grant him paradise, and shower His Rahmah and His Rahim upon our Imam. He has left us with tools and with jewels. His tools are made of jewels. And He has left them for us to ponder, to utilize, and to apply. So our job as Muslims in this 21st century, in this year 2012, is the job of excavation. Because what people have mistaken in His legacy, and I mean those outside of His real influence, what they have mistaken as His legacy, they have deduced or reduced to simple coal, C-O-A-L. Coal, like you find in the mine. And they look at it and they say, if I touch that, I'm going to get soot all over my hands. They don't want soot. You know, soot is also from the same root as the word Satan. and the brother of Osiris, Set. So they didn't want to get mired by his bid'ah. They didn't want to get their suit all sooted. It was too white. It was too pure. It was too angelic. Yeah. So they bypassed his tafsir, they bypassed his logic, not to realize that in time, what exists in the mines as coal eventually becomes diamond. See? You look at it 100 years ago, it's soot. It's coal. It's nothing but that which you throw into the fire. Have a nice barbecue around that bid'ah. Have a bid'ah barbecue. But they come back 100 years later, and you know Allah can make 100 years go like that. It's in the Quran. It said, how long have you tarried? He said, oh, a day or part of a day. No, man, you've been out of this thing 100 years, partner. Look at your ass. Excuse the expression. That's what Allah said. Look at your ass. no sign of weariness, no sign of dissipation in the life form. So we have to be aware of these different scenarios that are painted for us in the Quran because they contain great hikmah, great wisdom. And as they say in the gambling arena, you have to be in it to win it. You have to be in it to win it. You can't win this race if you're outside of the track. You have to be in it to win it. So we utilize Imam Muhammad's logic because we believe that his logic is most appropriate for where it is we desire to go, where it is we choose to go. And we believe that our choosing to go in the direction that we're heading in is not only personal choice on our part, but it is also the choice of our Lord, Creator, and Maker and Sustainer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That each one of us who are in this fold, each one of us whom Allah has included in this divine envelope of future possibilities and opportunities for us and our people to establish us, probably for the first time in America, as a people covering the vital areas of societal growth and development. Establish us governmentally, establish us economically, establish us academically and culturally. Well, we will be well on our way to being the ideal model community for the whole world to again reset its clock to. Reset its computer back to its default system. We will then represent the default system for what a human being is, according to the way Allah created that human being to function. We won't just have the form, we will have both form and function. And that is what makes you functional. When you not only look human, but you operate like one. And to operate like one, you have to shed those things that are not indicative of what a human being truly is. Imam Muhammad, once again, a true Muslim is a true human. A true Muslim is a true human. What other ideology have you come under that has described its adherence in that kind of broad context? No, a Christian is a follower of Jesus Christ, and if you don't confess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you will not be saved. That's Christian. But somebody made that up. That's not what Jesus taught, peace be upon him. A Jew is a Jew because he or she is born through a Jewish mother's womb. And if you have not been born, if your mother was not a Jew, I don't care if you call yourself a convert or not, Sammy Davis Jr., you're not one of us. And they treated him so. No matter how many stars of David he wore around his neck, they treated him like the average Negro. Even in the high life days of the Rat Pack, did he have to enter through the back door, while Frank Sinatra and the Dino and all of them entered through the front door. And he had more talent than all of them wrapped up together. There was nothing that Sammy Davis Jr. couldn't do on stage. Played every instrument. Even knew how to do that piece with the pistol, the Westerners used to do. He was the fastest drawer. Did everything and did it since he was 5 and 6 years old with his uncles and with his uncle and his father. Right? The Will Maston Trio, I believe it was called. If it wasn't called that, I believe his uncle was Will, and his father was also performing with him. And he lived to outshine them as a performer. And these are people whom Allah put a bit of his ruh into for the purposes that they existed for. That was their role in life, to keep the spirit tuned. Imagine had they really divested our people of the ruh that Allah put in us. None of us would be sitting here today. They captured the Native American, so-called Indian, in the same way that they captured the African. With the difference being that the Native American knew this land, and they couldn't keep him corralled because he knew the land better than they did. So they decided to get a people from far off who were not familiar with the terrain. And they decided to capture our ancestors, bring them here for chattel slavery, and the rest is what they call history. So we have to be aware of these things. Why? Because the problems that have developed in the interim since we were brought here have escalated and have not only manifested themselves in the exterior life of our people, but they have manifested themselves more dangerously on the interior, or in the interior of our people, in the psyche. And the psyche, Psyche, is where the real education or lack thereof takes place. In the psyche. They developed a word from that called psychology, which means how they study the psyche, the study of the psychic life. And the psychic life is connected more to your subconscious existence than it is to your conscious existence. So let us begin with this first note. And if I want you to write something down because I deem it to be important, I'll let you know to write it down even if I don't go to the board. But we'll start out by saying that 95% of your mental activity is actually subconscious. 95%, that's a high percentage, of your living hours are spent doing things based on your subconscious mind. And only 5% is relegated to your conscious mind, conscious activity. You blink, but you can't tell me how many times you blinked in the last 60 seconds. Because it's not your conscious mind controlling it. It's your subconscious mind. You swallow. Your heart is beating. It's not your conscious mind that's keeping your heart beating. It's Allah's command over your subconscious existence. Allah has angels, so to speak, over your subconscious existence. That if they did not exist, you and I would not exist. Because if you had to consciously think about your heart beating so many beats per minute and go shopping for your groceries, you can't do this. We can't rub our bellies and whatever that is at the same time. Imagine trying to keep up with the heartbeat, the amount of blood that needs to be pumped to the brain. The brain receives, I believe, 85% of the body's blood flow. These are amazing things that Allah created, that He has His angels, so to speak, in charge of. Because if He had put your conscious brain in charge of them, you and I would be gone from here. So He gave leadership of your conscious mind over to just a relatively few things, just 5% of your life. While 95% of your life is relegated to that which Allah is in control of. You can learn to master those things. You can learn to slow your breathing down so that your heartbeat begins to rest. You can learn to, you psych yourself up in some situations so that your heart speeds up. You get excited when you know you shouldn't. You let things bother you when you know you shouldn't let things and other people and things people say bother you. We're going to be talking about all of these things this weekend because all of them have to do with fitra-based education. And fitra-based education covers every area of human social interaction. How we deal with each other. How we learn from the environment and how we are being taught from our own genetic existence. We're being taught by our genes. In the Quran, when Allah mentions names like jinn, everybody say jinn. Yes, jinn. Now, I don't want you to pronounce it like the English J. I want you to pronounce it like the French J. You know, that sweet J, like Jacques. Jinn. That's how it should be pronounced. Say it again and say it loud. Jinn. There you go. Say it again. Jinn. Oh, you feel the power in that. There you go, my brother. So, my interest is in teaching the entire world of scholarship, especially Islamic scholarship, what I have dubbed the consonantal connections. Connections in the consonants as opposed to vowels. Vowels exist only to give consonants their expression. They are open sounds, a, e, u, in Arabic, a, e, I, o, u. and sometimes Y in English. But they are there to assist the consonants in a way to facilitate the pronunciation. So if I say b, 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 that's B, right? But I have to add the consonant E to it for it to have its real expression. B, E, B. So no consonant is a consonant until it actually marries a vowel. I believe that's why they call the marriage thing vowels. Right? Yeah, you take your vowel. Because the vowel is the wife. And the consonant is the husband. I'm just thinking out loud now, right? Think about what I'm saying. Consonant means with sound. Con means with. Sonant, sonar, hearing, sound. But that consonant cannot have sound until it marries the vowel. So the male has no real expression until he marries the female. Isn't that beautiful? She should be seen and not heard. No, that's backwards. Sometimes what you see will fool you, but she should be allowed to express herself. And that's what Al-Islam is all about, as it's been given to us through the man who people cry bid'ah over. Who would like to be the board writer for today? Who has nice penmanship? Don't be shy. Thank you. Appreciate you. Come to the board and write the word education. And while she's doing that, I'm going to be showing you the very, very simple technique for deducing big words back down to their fitra origin. Deducing or reducing. Thank you so much. Oh, you have wonderful penmanship. Mine tends to be leaning to the side all the time, going up a hill and all that. So I like to have other people do my writing. If you don't mind, stay there just for one moment. Words that are big words are only big words because they are contractions of smaller words. One of the things that you have to look for in all languages is something called morphology. In Arabic, it's called morphology. In English, it's called fixes. Now, I want you to listen to this language. Don't go anywhere. Fixes, right? Think about the language of this world. Imam Muhammad said that the language of this world is couched in satire. And you know, to have a fix is something that they used to say about the junkies, right? And to be fixed is something that they even said about Jesus the Christ. They call it a crucifix. They're talking about language. Didn't they say Jesus was the Word? In Christianity and in the Quran. Kalimatan min Allah. That he is a word from Allah. Huh? But he was not a word that was intended to be crucifixed. And Allah says that in the Quran. So he is a word stripped of its fixes. He is a word directly from the fitra existence of language. And what language means in its fitra origin. We're going to be getting a little deeper into that. I'll be introducing you to new concepts, so just pay attention, right? And ask questions. So in English, we say prefix, and what else? Suffix, and there's one a little less known. You know what it's called? Infixes. Yeah, there are prefixes which go where? What part of the word? In the front of the word. There are suffixes that go where? At the end of the word. And then in some cases there are infixes that go where? In the middle. That's right, in the middle. We'll be talking more about the prefixes and the suffixes. So in this word education, let's see if we can identify the prefixes and the suffixes. What do you believe to be the prefix in the word education? E. Can you draw an arrow from the E down and put the word prefix, please? And whatever is being done on the board, I'll try my best to echo it into the mic so when you listen back to the CD, or if people need to hear the CD, they know exactly where we are on the board. Yes, ma'am. And while you're there, identify the suffix. Good question. Take a guess.
Deuce. Deuce.
The suffix. Yes, exactly. I-O-N. So draw an arrow from I-O-N down to suffix. Now some people might think it's the T-I-O-N, right? Because you see that on a lot of words. Shun, shun, shun. And look, and the fact that it's T-I-O-N and pronounced S-H-U-N should raise your eyebrows also. But it's not shun, it's ion. Isn't that a scientific concept? And it has plenty of meaning in the suffix. All right? So we have the suffix. Now what do you have left? What consonants do we have left? Huh? D, C, and T. So bring those all the way down with an arrow. My brother. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Yes. D, C, T. Bring them all the way down, further down. We're going to go a little slow so you can get this. The purpose is to get it, right? And we're at home. This is not formal. This is informal. This is like sitting around the dinner table. Yes. No. Those are the roots. Right. So just put a capital D. Next to it, we have what? Now pronounce the word. Yes. Okay, D. Yes, I'm sorry. Then C. And what's the last one? T. Now, what is that T really? Now, I want you to pay very careful attention to what I'm saying. This T in the English language serves the exact same purpose as the T, the ta, what's called ta marbuta in Arabic. Does anyone know what ta marbuta does for a word, for an Arabic word? Yes, ma'am. It feminizes it. It is called a feminine T. Okay? That's what this is. They tell you that in English words do not have gender. You've heard that? Yeah. Like in Spanish, you can say la casa, you can say el lapi, you can genderize them. In Arabic, you have genders, but they say in English, for some reason, there are no genders. That's not true. I'm going to tell you the first reason that your intellectual Muslim mind should know that that's not true. You ready for this? Allah says in the Quran that He created everything in pairs. Even language. That's me adding that. Zawjain. That's the first hint. Nothing exists as a neuter, so to speak. Everything is either feminine or masculine in the general sense of that concept. We know that there are animals that can reproduce themselves by themselves, but it's still going to boil down to a male and female principle in operation, even if both principles exist in one creation or one creature. You following what I'm saying? Now, so the T being a feminine ending now has to be erased from the scheme. Just put an arrow from the T down to feminine ending. So we'll know not to include that. Great. And now comes the juicy part. So what do we have left? DC. Not my favorite town, but DC. Now, remember that this world does not make this stuff up. This world went into God's scripture in order to get this knowledge and this information, this wisdom. Went into Allah's books, historical books, before the Quran. They were digging up this information by studying scripture and then erasing their tracks to it whenever possible. In the Quran, what Allah is doing in many cases is preserving the wisdom of old, bringing back the original meanings for letters, for words, for concepts in the Quran. He brings them back, but he might be reviving a necessary piece of wisdom from the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt. He might be reviving a necessary piece of wisdom from the Torah, from the Injil, right? The Gospel. The Quran is preserving all necessary information for humanity to continue establishing itself and growing on towards its destiny, which is human excellence. Not religious, fraternal excellence. Not schismatic excellence. All of these groups, the only purpose for these schisms and these divisions is that they are in a race with each other towards human excellence. Allah says, strive is in a race towards all that is higher. The word is in Arabic. Higher. Sounds like higher, right? In English. Right? So let your English mind interpret like that. Strive towards all that is higher. Huh? So if we're in a relationship with each other, if we're doing business with each other, I'm to always strive towards that which is higher than what I'm handling. If I can be better in my relationship, in my business relationship, if I can be better in the way that I teach my children, if I can be better in what I'm looking at on television as culture and entertainment, say this doesn't respect my excellence. This doesn't respect my higher development. So Allah says strive is in a race towards all that is higher. But I'm understanding that even though I'm taking an Arabic word and giving it an English context, I'm understanding what Allah is saying even better than the person who speaks the Arabic who doesn't know what khayr represents. Khayr represents that which is good because it is of utility. It is useful. It's not just good because it looks good. It's good because it operates well in your system. And as I told you in the Jummah, I'm of the belief that Arabic words began as bilateral or biliteral. 2 letters, 2 consonants, then 3. So I'm understanding based on my personal study that this word khayr also developed into the word that Allah calls in the Quran, akhirah. See, the kha and the ra took a letter on the beginning. Kha. Pardon me, a. The alif. Akhira. Khair, then akhara. Khara, then akhara. Huh? And a has a connection to the idea of being in the lead of something. Just like a, if I were to put it in English, it would be the letter what? Aleph. What letter would that be in English? A, the leading letter. The leading letter. So akhirah, based on my logic, in my English head, represents leadership in the area of what is khayr. Now isn't that al-akhirah? That in al-akhirah all things are going to be for the believers? All things are going to be for the purified? You understand? This is a gift that Allah has given us in this language. A true gift. Yes, ma'am?
My brain's wired differently.
Yes.
I think it's medical terminology. They tell you that A
Yes.
So when you were talking about the whole A thing,
Mhm.
my brain was going to without.
Yes. You'd like for me to explain that, wouldn't you?
No, I guess that's
No,
really
because
terminology.
it's connected. So when we say amoral, right? When we say asexual, this is her reasoning, and it's good reasoning, right? Here's what it's saying. You know, we also say Adam. We just say Adam. Got it? Now let's string those all together. That A. Now remember, language travels. And as language travels, language does what human beings do. They pick up things along the way. And they begin to even change or become modified based on where they are and what the attitude and personality of the people who operate in that area, how they flow. So you're going to find moderations. You're going to find adaptations in the language also. In the Arabic language, that A represented leader, strength, pillar. Right? You see how the Aleph is? You draw the Aleph from top to bottom, right? Almost a straight line, right? Boom. Because it represents that which comes from above and descends down to you. It also represents the revelation itself. So in many cases in the Arabic language, you'll find very significant words in Quranic terminology that begin with Aleph. Iman, Islam, and you can go on and on and on, and there's a bunch of them. Right? But it represents leadership over whatever that concept is that comes after it. Leadership in that area. All right? Now, when it reached the English language, it became not. But let me show you how. You notice that the word not, spell the word not. Yes, now spell it again. There you go. Say it loud. That's right. That's right. And you put a not in something when you want to keep that thing in its place. You want to nullify it, in effect. You want to make it mute, the word we used earlier. Right? So if I say amoral, I'm tying up the morals, ain't I? If I say asexual, I'm tying up the sexuality, aren't I? Because the N-O-T is really K-N-O-T. It's serving to nullify what comes after it. It is serving to make dead or to deaden. Alright? To make mute. Meaning this life form no longer communicates this particular thing or this message. I'm saying this for purposes of you listening back to it and studying it. You won't get it all as I'm talking. I'm convinced. I have a history of that. Knowing that I don't expect anybody to get it all as I'm saying it. I expect you to get the CD, get the DVD, and work it from there. Fast forward, rewind until you get it. And if you don't get it, I'm going to have my number on the board. You can call me at any time, right, Eric? And I'll be on the other end to assist you in the understanding of that. These are not simple concepts. That's why I'm taking my time. But they are related ideas. Now, you've heard of an Amir. That's Quranic language. And an Amir is a leader, correct? You see the idea how the Aleph plays its part right there? But a leader over what? Over the mir. Now you have to figure out what the mir is. And you figure that out by looking at other words that have that MR connection. Even in English, especially in English, if you're not familiar with the Arabic. So, and it doesn't matter what consonant is in between. So let's put all of English's consonants in between that M and that R. Tell me what you come up with. Huh? Go slow. Go in order with the English consonants. No, just give me the M consonant, M vowel R. That's all I want.
And R.
Huh?
You said the consonants, M and R?
Yeah, but put the English vowels in between those two consonants. Okay, if you put I, it's mir, right? All right, that's huh? If you put an A, it's mar. If you put an O, it's more, right? If you put an E, it's mer. You've heard of mermaid? You've heard of marine? Right? Both of those words have to do with what? Water. And I already told you that the meme or the M by itself means water. You've heard me say that? All right. R simply means the movement of. Water's movement. That's what MR means. No matter what you put in between, it's going to mean water's movement and really the turbulent movement in water. When water is disturbed. Everybody following me? All right. And in other languages, you'll find the M-I-R connection. You don't find that in English so much. But in mirror, you do, because mirror is like looking in the water. It's just your reflection, just as if you're looking in the water. So mirror does also mean water, the movement of the water. In fact, you find some mirrors that almost really look like you're looking in the water, in the reflection, your reflection in the water. All right. So Amir means the leader over the water. That's where they get the English term admiral. You see it in there with the M-I-R? Admiral. And admire, even. These are all words that come out of the Arabic language, from them studying the Quran and making the connections. So the admiral is the leader over the water. He's the prince over the water. Huh? And even in this word that we use for this country, America. America. It's a combination of two languages. The first one, Arabic, Amir, which you're familiar with. The second one, ancient Egyptian, Ka, a word for the soul. One aspect of the soul. They have three major words for soul in ancient Egypt. Ka, Ba, and Ab. Ka, Ba, and Ab. So Amir Ka, for those who understand the connection, means the prince of the soul. That's what this country was designed to be. Those who ruled over the human soul. Yeah, I saw your eyes light up on that one. Yeah. This was, as Imam Muhammad pointed out, the great experiment. The new world. Huh? Let's see how much freedom we can give a human brain until it cracks. That's what this is. You're living in it. America. Let's see how much we can just keep giving them freedoms. And let's see when we go overboard. Because we want to create the most free intellect on earth. Let's choose America to do it, but let's do it with satanic strategy. Forget about what God said. We don't believe God's plan works to just let a human being be respectful of the environment and contribute to his own intellectual development. We don't believe that works. We don't believe that God will be there guiding that person all the way along. He'll send prophets and messengers. No, we want to be the prophets and we want to be the messengers. So Allah says that everything that he commanded his prophets and messengers to do, Satan sought to duplicate it. Because that's the position he wanted. He wanted to prove that God was wrong in assigning and consigning this weak piece of clay to be the Khalifa fil ard. Yes, someone had a question in the back.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I was studying Surah Khalaq, just the beginning of it, and
Yes,
it says this between Khalaq, which you have to take something that already exists and fashion it and bring it to existence.
Yes.
And when you say the A, Amr, command,
Yes.
Allah used Amr when he said be, and just take it from nothing and bring it. You understand what I'm saying?
I surely do.
I was reading the other night.
Yeah, I surely do. But I don't want you to mistake the ayn for the aleph
Oh, okay.
in this case. And I'm going to be beginning soon with that surah, with those same verses that you're talking about, to show you how the whole concept of sophisticated language came into being through the study of that surah and other words like it.
Okay.
That we're reading them simply as read the pen, taught you that which you didn't know before. That's simple homeschool learning. But that's just the foundation. What those words mean in their exaggerated, I don't want to say exaggerated. Hey, my friend, assalamu alaikum. That's one of my international instructors, Gail Muhammad. Give her a hand. I love this girl. Yeah. And I have a bunch of people around the country who listen to me on a weekly conference call. And we have about 106 calls in the archives right now. Over 400 hours worth of instruction that you can tap into for free if we give you the number. So I'm thankful you were able to make it. I feel much better now that I see you here safely. Now, it's that time. Yes, okay. So we're going to break for the Adhan and Salatul Maghrib. Assalamu alaikum, yes? You came up to call the Adhan? No? All right. Your day is coming, man. Your day is coming. You know this. How you been? All right. He's shy when he's in here with us. When he's with his friends, I know he ain't that quiet. And that's a good thing. He knows he's developing. So we're going to have the Adhan call, and inshallah we're going to make the Maghrib, and we're going to reconvene as quickly as possible. You know how time likes to fly when you're having fun, right? All right, so let's make the Maghrib Salat, and inshallah we'll convene shortly thereafter. Assalamu alaikum. Good to know. It just saves me time, and sometimes when I go to the board, I don't remember to bring the microphone with me, and it doesn't get on the CD, so I'm trying to be conscious of that. Well, she's on there.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum. For the benefit of those who may be in the lobby area, just to let you know, we're going to resume the workshop in about 1 minute. And for those of you who came after our introduction, we'd like to welcome you once again, alhamdulillah, to this wonderful fitr-based education workshop. We have some people who are local and some people who are from out of town. We thank all of you for coming. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your efforts. As our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that every step that you take towards seeking knowledge is a step towards paradise. So alhamdulillah, for those of you who are inshallah on your way to paradise by being here. So thank you very much for your support. You know, this is the first of a 3-part series. Tonight's session started at 5, and inshallah will end about 9. And then tomorrow we resume at 3, and we can, 9 and continue to 3. And then on Sunday we start at 1:30, and we have been scheduled to end at 4:30. And I say that deliberately because last time we were also scheduled to end at 4:30. And I think by 8:30 we got out of here. So we have to see how it evolves, inshallah. But again, thank you for coming. There are plenty of seats up front if you want to fill up the closer spaces. There's some much more comfortable seats if you're going to be sitting for a while. If that's suitable for you, then find one and use it. And with that, then, with those remarks out the way, giving everybody a chance to settle down and get in here, I'd like to turn it over to Imam Benjamin Bilal. Assalamu alaikum.
Once again, assalamu alaikum. We begin again with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, keeping in mind that we are here by the grace and mercy and benefits of our guardian evolver, keeper and sustainer of all worlds, and hence of all systems of knowledge. We are here because of the mercy of Allah. Whatever we know, it is due to Allah's grace on us, His mercy on us. It is not necessarily due to anything that we did. or anything that we could think of doing to earn Allah's mercy and blessings. So don't look at any one of us who may have been gifted by Allah and say, wow, what a guy, what a girl. They must have really did something wonderful in their life to have been blessed with that. I grew up in the projects, man. Stop playing. You knew me when I was a little teenager. Philanthropy, right? Running around, we trying to do some things, bumping our heads. But one thing that he and other people who knew me from years ago do know is that I've always tried to help other people and teach other people. And that's been my existence for as far as I've been conscious of an existence. Since grade school, I was helping to tutor other students and read, and I'd be in the room by myself with the dictionaries and encyclopedias, just reading, for reading's sake. Allah was preparing me for all of that time for the role that I have before you right now. And I believe it's a flower that's just beginning to unfold. Yeah. We've been on the conference calls for over 2 years, most of us. Gail, I think, you've been on there over a year, right? It goes to it, if not. And, that was, before you go into very serious kinds of physical exercise, they tell you to do what? Warm up. And stretch. And people come up to me sometimes and they say, hey, ma'am, I heard what you said, man, but don't you think you're stretching it a little bit? That's what you do when you warm up. This is an academic exercise. And until you can stretch your imagination to be able to grasp the possibilities of what language holds for you, what language entails, you'll start out in the race thinking that you can just run around the block and you end up with all kinds of cramps in your muscles. We don't want you to be, heart attack. Your muscles start acting up on you because you didn't prepare them for the weight of what was to come. Allah has blessed me with a method that prepares your intellect for the weight and the responsibility of what your muscles are going to have to uphold. This is all fitrah based. So although I might stretch, I don't exaggerate. That'll pop your muscle. You'll be in pain for a long time when you pop one of them tendons the wrong way. We do what the cats, the dogs, and all the other life forms do. Even the plants. If you watch them in the morning when the sun is up, they're stretching towards the light. Your cats will do the same thing when they get up in the morning. Your dog, same thing. Allah talks about that dog coming out of that cave and stretching his paws forth. Those are signs about how the intellect is to be prepared for great knowledge. And also the heart, how the heart is prepared for great knowledge. So we're talking about a process called education, and we're talking about the configuration or the morphology, as it's called in linguistics, of how words are actually put together, how words are constructed. In Arabic, it's called morphology, and there are Arabic words, but it doesn't make sense telling it to you because we're not Arabic-speaking people. Let's stick to English as much as possible. And in English, they call that structure or pieces of that structure fixes. As we said, this is for the benefit of those who are not here. Prefixes, suffixes, infixes. So put down exactly what you see on the board if you're just getting here, inshallah. These are going to be made available to you by way of this masjid, because this masjid, I believe, is the situated masjid for the beginnings of a true national curriculum. Not only for our schools, but first and foremost for our parents. You'll hear more about this at tomorrow's banquet. Curriculum begins at home. Right? The Honorable, you might think I'm going to mention a man's name, Clara Muhammad. Isn't that beautiful to say that? I don't know if anybody else has said that. I'm sure there are people who said it, but it should be more popular. The Honorable Clara Muhammad, actually, as far as we can determine in history, was the one to introduce homeschooling to America. And we say takbir, See, y'all got to be stronger than I need some more energy. Takbir! That's what I'm talking about. That's your history you're celebrating. That's your gift to humanity. Let nobody take that from you. She, based on the information that we have, is the one who is considered to have brought homeschooling to America. When she and others in the early days of the Nation of Islam extracted their students from the public schools and began to teach them within the four walls of their own homes. And they thereafter called that homeschooling. And you know the whole story about how the officials came to try to take those children away from Clara Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with her efforts and bless her in paradise, along with her valiant husband, we call the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And don't let people make you feel funny about saying the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Don't make you feel funny about saying the Honorable Imam W.D. Muhammad. In a heartbeat, they'll say Noble Drew Ali. That's not his name. That's a title, Noble. It means honorable. But we treat that like it's a part of his name. You never hear people saying, hey, and Drew Ali said. They just quick to say, Noble Drew Ali said. And that doesn't bother them. But the ones who that doesn't bother are bothered when we say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I don't get it. And Allah said He created all of us honorable. But He also said that your death and your life are as the death and life of a single soul. So Allah can bring you back. He can bring your integrity back. He can bring your purpose back, your mission back through an individual. And that individual can give enough medicine to the world to actually change the course of human history. And he doesn't have to be perfect man. He just has to be part of the construction that we call Adam, original man, and do the best he can, the best she can, with what Allah blessed them with, and give that up totally to the mission. And then Allah brings others to add on. Not as prophets and messengers in this case that I'm talking about. I'm talking about cultural leaders, worldly leaders, historical leaders, especially of our people, the African American people, who are people who have been given so much leadership that if we make a dua for a new leader, we're crazy. We're greedy and we shouldn't be here. Because if you don't get it by now, between the early leaders of the freedom movement in what was not even then called America, but your Frederick Douglasses and even those who existed before him, people who sacrificed their very lives, Nat Turner and others, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and we can go on and on. Beautiful program was shown to me by your imam here, Mikhail Shabazz. A program he was at, based at his children's school, that had preserved in the students the love and the memory of that leadership that we're discussing. And they were able to just rattle off quotations from leaders. They weren't even reading it. They had memorized it. And you can't memorize a thing unless it affects you emotionally in one way or another. If it affects you negatively, you don't want to talk about it at all. The very fact that they wanted to talk about it said that it affected them positively. And it was just, I told them I wish you could have this on a big screen so that people could see it. The youngsters came out in black suits, black ties, straight ties. They were looking, and I didn't see one sagging piece of pants in the whole group. Isn't that beautiful? That we should have a national day of celebration just for our youth who still know to keep their pants up on their behinds. That should almost be a celebration. These young, beautiful youngsters coming in here with notebooks and pens and papers and curious eyes. Not understanding everything that we're talking about, but knowing that it's something important. It's not widescreen television that they're watching tonight. So do you know how Allah is going to bless these youngsters who gave up their television Friday night television and all that foolishness that other youth are looking at and involving themselves in. They are chosen. They couldn't be here unless Allah chose them to be here. And Allah might choose them to be here for something that He plans on doing with them 10, 15 years from now. They don't even know why they're here. Sometimes I don't know why I'm here. But Allah's preparing me for something. I don't even have a car now to get here. I got here and I don't even know how I'm getting back home. But I know I'm getting back home. And the reality of it is, I am home. Maybe that's the big message. What do you mean go home? You're home. Oh, you just find a house now. Apartment or something, yeah? All right, alhamdulillah. Let's get back into this. So we're talking about how to break down big words so that you get back to the root letters. And you're going to find that those root letters, especially in the English language, are also related to the Arabic language, Quranic wisdom that they pulled from in order to come up with those great ideas. If those ideas are lasting for decades and hundreds of years, it is because they got that information from one of God's scriptures. That was the earlier point. Man cannot come up with ideas to sustain his existence unless he comes up with those ideas that have been spelled out for him, explained to him, cultured and nurtured for him through language taught that is based on revelation, not just worldly ideas. Worldly ideas come and go. Plato, Aristotle, all the big boys, their knowledge comes and then their knowledge goes because it's not based on scripture. It's based on them peeking into scripture, but all of them didn't have the insight because they weren't committed as religious people. Some of them spoke out vehemently against religion and religious concepts. But those ideas that are lasting are ideas that have been built upon, established and built upon by religious thinkers, especially the monotheistic faiths that we call the Abrahamic faiths. All right? So this word education, it looks difficult, but it's not a difficult stretch for you to understand its morphology. It's how the word was built. Education comes from the next word, educe. E-D-U-C-E. Now, when you thank you, sister. What is your name again? Saida. You gotta love her. I love volunteers. Because she could be over there scribbling notes that's coming to her and she's sacrificing to do what she does. And she has such great penmanship that we're going to, maybe we'll just have you put her on the payroll for every time I'm here. She can get a little something for sacrificing her time like that. That's beautiful. I love it. When you see the letter E on the front of an English word, the connotation is going to be that which goes out. That which leaves, that which goes out. And I'm going to get back to that A in a minute that we were discussing earlier, from the beginning of words. E represents that which goes out, exit. That which leaves one place, travels to a different place. In the pictograph of the letter itself, if you look at her capital letter E on the beginning of the word educe, you'll see a straight line, and then you will see 3 lines stretching out from it. Top, middle, bottom. Now here is the more esoteric meaning for the letter E. The letter E in the English language represents your senses. Your 5 senses as they leave your flesh or physical body and begin to roam the environment to bring back information. The letter E is the 5th letter in the English language because it represents your 5 senses. The small letter E, everyone knows how it's drawn? She did the fancy E. Yeah, would you please? Remember, these are pictographs. Yes. All right. So the small E, if you write it in the way that you were taught penmanship-wise, and I'll get up for this one, just to show you the drawing. You would begin here. Your senses go out, and then come back to go out again. That's what's called sensory perception. What I just drew for you is a verse of the Quran when you begin to understand Quranic logic. Allah says in the Quran, let your vision go out. You read this verse? And see if you can find a flaw in the creation. And then Allah says, let your vision go out again. Your eyes will return to you tired and worn. Think about what Allah is saying. That's sensory perception. And it is also the basis for what the English world calls respect. Re means to do again. Spect means to look at. Like through your spectacles. As a spectator, right? Spect means to look at something. So respect means to look at something at least twice. Or over and over is what re means. To do it over and over. And it is the looking at what Allah has created over and over again that is going to encourage in you the idea that what you're looking at should be thoroughly respected. So at the time that you're looking for, or in the moments that you're looking for some flaw, you're going to spend so much time looking for that flaw that you're going to wear your own eyeballs out. You're going to wear your own senses out, trying to find a flaw. Oh, but I saw a falling star. But it's in the scheme of Allah. Because He wanted to show us what we look like when we begin to not cooperate in a system. Yeah? When you become a lone ranger, it's just bound to happen. Wisdom. Now, second idea, still talking about the word educate and this letter E, which represents your five senses, not just your sense of sight. But the reason E represents your five senses is because every one of your five senses can see. You can see with your nose. You know when mama cooking apple pie or barbecue chicken without seeing the chicken cooking. You walk in the house, oh man, barbecue chicken and macaroni and, cheese. Your nose showed it to you. You saw it with your nose. You fumbling for something in your hand. Oh man, where's my nail clipper? You don't have to see it. As soon as you feel it, you know that's your nail clipper. Your sense of touch saw it. You make a mistake, you eat something that you should not have put in your mouth, and immediately, oh man, what? This is stale. You want to look at it, you're reading the newspaper. You don't know that piece of toast or that donut or whatever is stale. But your taste buds, your sense of taste, saw it. And the same for whatever senses are missing in that description. Your senses can see. But your senses have a limitation attached to them. So Imam Muhammad said that as visual creatures, we are limited. And the superior sense, if we're going to depend on sensory perception, is actually your hearing, not your seeing. You should condition, this is a principle for education I'm giving you. We have to condition our children to be good listeners first, before we have them trust these. So you'll notice in the English lexicon, pertaining to words, describing people, individuals or human beings. You have the word people. Write the word people down. P-E-O-P-L-E. And you have the word person or persons. And Imam Muhammad told us in a very wise hint or clue that persons is what you want to be and not people. People are inferior. Let me show you why. We the people, right? Such and such and so and so. But you are first and foremost as a fitra, creation of Allah, you are a person and not a people. And it just so happens that today, that's a major debate now going on in the world of corporations. Because a corporation is technically a person. When you file for it to be a corporation, a 501c3 or a S corporation or C corporation, you are filing to be an artificial person. And Satan looks at what Allah does and what he's commissioned his prophets and messengers to do, and he designs a scheme to duplicate it. So Satan has actually duplicated us in the form of corporations all over the world. So your corporation can be established, and you as a true human person could do something that merits someone wanting to sue you. But if you are under the umbrella of a corporation, and it was actually your activities connected to the corporation that were responsible for the lawsuit, they can sue the corporation, but they can't sue you. And vice versa. If you did something stupid, or I did something stupid, as a person, non-related to my corporation, they can sue me, the natural person, but they can't touch any of the things that I established under my corporation. That's why people make and break corporations every day. Slicksters. Yeah, slicksters. Oh, here comes a lawsuit. File bankruptcy. Get out of it. Start a new corporation under a new name. Now you're a new person. Oh, this is a slick world. I'm just showing you the slick side. There's a good side, but I'm showing you the slick side. People is P-E-O-P-L-E. And when you see the letters O-P or O-P-T even in a word, it has to do with seeing. Sight. Optic. Even optimism has to do with how you see things. But a person has to do with one who exists by way of sound. Per in person means by way of. Meaning this is via, in other words, by way of. This is how this person, this object exists. By way of sonar. Sonar. Sound. Sonar. Sound. Sun, S-U-N, solar. S-O-L-A-R. But sound, ears, sonar. Sony records. Records you listen to. Music you listen to. Now look at listen to. All right. Your vision is limited. In the advancement of language on earth, I believe that language began as that which was gestural. Gestures. Before man could articulate, there's the high possibility that people communicated just with motions, gestures, maybe primitive utterances even. Before they could develop the language. Right now, in certain cultures that you know of to be very popular for their hand gestures, you still have it. The Italians, the Jews. These are people that say talk with their hands. You know, they're talking, but they're still, all that, cuss words with their hands, right? You know, when we were in elementary school, little girls would come to other little girls and do this. You know what that meant. And she twisted her hand like that. You know, now they got the snake neck. And all. We're still talking with gestures. It's a part of our human history to speak with gestures. And body language and gestures are so deeply ingrained in the subconscious of human beings that even though you don't know it, when you're in the presence of people who you enjoy being around, check this out, next time you're standing next to your best friend. You're going to be conscious of what you're doing. They won't be. You'll be folding your arms like our dear sister here. And the person you're talking to will fold their arms. You'll fold your leg. The person you're talking to will fold their leg. You'll put your hand in your mouth like Jack Benny used to do. And the person you're talking to will do some gesture that is very similar, if not the same, as the gesture that you're performing. You know what that is in you? The Muslim in you. The person that wants peace with the other person. And peace means, I'm like you. We the same. See, Allah clocked that into your nature. Every child is born upon the fitrah. Every child is born Muslim, according to Muhammad, the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Peace and blessings be upon him. So that's just your Muslim thing. That ain't you trying to be like somebody. That's you conforming your spirit in agreement with the person who you enjoy being around. Now, a person you might not enjoy being around, you'll fold your arms no matter what they're doing, because folding the arms is a way of saying, I'm blocking out. I don't want you affecting my heart with what you're talking about. See, it's in the body language. Doesn't mean that's what she's doing now. She might just be tired. But you need to be aware of these things because your subconscious mind knows what that is. And as long as your conscious mind is registering what it is, you just correct it. That's all. Because it's a subconscious block to the information. Whenever you do this, and fold your legs like that, that's a subconscious block to the information or on the information. Yeah. Somebody talking to you, you have your head down like that and you're listening, you blocking out everything they're saying. There's something that happens in your brain chemically when you nod your head, tilt your head like this. You cut off a particular flow that activates dopamine and other chemicals in your brain that are designed to bring you happiness. That's why a depressed person can never stay depressed for as long as they hold their physical head upright. You can't be depressed like this. It's impossible. Find a depressed person. Walk into the clinic and do your own experiment. And say, I'd like to just talk to that person. And they're sitting there and the psychiatrist says, yes, well, tell us what is wrong with you. And how many years have this been wrong with you? And they're just recounting. When all you got to do is say, oh, first of all, before we start this session, lift your head up. Lift your chest up. Breathe. Learn to breathe again. Breathing is important. We're going to talk about that over the weekend. It's a part of education. How do we know? Allah said, don't even bow down to that clay dude that I'm making until I breathe some life into him. Some breath. Ruh. It was the ruh that activated him in a way that merited him a response from the angels in the form of prostration. It wasn't the clay. It was what Allah infused in the clay. It's not you, the flesh and blood person. It's what Allah infused in you. And if you have not accepted the invitation from Allah's ruh to be a part of your mental, moral, and spiritual system, you are no more than what the mere animals are that roam the earth. In fact, you're worse. Because the mere animals have instinct to guide them onto their destiny. These tsunamis and all these things that happen across the planet, guess who gets the message first? The animal. They out of there. That should tell you something. Your cat in your house will tell you when something bad's about to happen. Or something irregular. You don't want to say good or bad. Cats start acting. You say, why is he acting like that? And here comes the 10-day notice. And the landlord comes 10 minutes later. I'm sorry to inform you that you have to move. Your cat's like, I told you so. I can make it outside. I don't know about you. Cat's natural born instincts for living. Cat can live inside all for 10 years straight and be put outdoors and make it. I'm telling you, I have cats, 2 cats. One of them and both of them were in the house since they were born. My children found them under a car as kittens, newborn kittens. We took them and they asked their dad, can y'all take these cats? I said, okay, we'll take them. This is 6 years later. One of them gets caught in one of those New York City snowstorms that we had a couple of years ago and was out there for 2 weeks. We said, he's got to be dead. Where's he getting his food? I mean, for us to step through the snow, it was one of those snows. If you remember 2 years ago, I think it was, or last year, the snowstorm that hit New York and other places. And we said, for sure, we have a cat, we call him Big Head. Because he thinks he's all that. And we said, man, I looked everywhere. And then something told me, look in the garage. Do you know that cat was in the garage for 2 weeks? And there was some kind of hole in the ceiling of the garage that allowed him to get in and out. I don't know where he found some mice somewhere. They know what to do is my point. They will survive based on instinct. The human being won't know what to do because Allah did not create us to be ruled by instinct. He created us to be ruled by our intellect. Intelligence, inner knowledge, and intellect. Knowledge that we gather from the outside environment, from the culture. Those are 2 different levels of information. One is intelligence, native knowledge that Allah clocked into your DNA and your RNA and all of those other nurses and doctors that He put in there. Yeah, He put an RN in there. That's right. It's a natural nurse to know what to do, how to service the doctors, called DNA. The nurse, the RNA, she goes in there, he goes in there, and they say, DNA, what do you need done? And he says, take this prescription and give it to this guy. Or triage him. That's in your body. But it has to be ruled over by those bodies of knowledge called intelligence and intellect. And the intelligence and the intellect have to agree in order for the life form to be successful as a fitra-based life form. By fitra, all of you know what I'm saying? Fitra means in the Quran the natural pattern that Allah created everything upon. How it operates naturally without man's influencing it. Man's concepts influencing it. Man can make a myth about the sun called Mithra or called Jesus. Both of those are sun myths. The Bible depiction of Jesus the Christ, peace be upon him, is taken from earlier sun myths about sun gods, including Apollo, Amun-Ra from ancient Egypt, Mithra from Persia, and many other sun myths that exist in the history of mythology, both Eastern and Western mythology. Jesus is really just the latest incarnation of that sun myth. Hercules, is said the same thing about him, that he was crucified to save the world, as it is said about Jesus. Those are just asides in case you study like that. That's why the Quran had to be revealed in order to clean up the mythology. He was killed not, nor was he crucified, but it was made to appear as such. Important knowledge. We'll get into that later. That's a part of education. How knowledge appears and how knowledge really is. It appears as though the sun is rising and setting, right? But that ain't how it really is. Abraham, this must be my Lord. When he saw it rise, this must be my Rob. But when he saw it set, can't be my Rob. But the sun doesn't rise and set. So what was Ibrahim experiencing? Appearance. The appearance. See, Allah put certain things a certain way in order for it to appear that way, because the appearance of it in that mode is a part of the education for the elementary mind. That was Ibrahim in his elementary development. Because Allah put it like that so that you would become curious about it. And once you become curious about it, you begin to look into it often enough to be blessed finally with the science behind it. And then the science will say it wasn't rising and setting at all. In fact, We're going around it. It ain't going around us. That's Allah's way of teaching fitrah. We have to inculcate those perceptions and lessons and logic in the younger groups of people that we teach, until we can safely bring them into the fold of ilm, or knowledge and science. Certain scientific concepts you can't introduce to them at those ages. Their minds are different. Their imagination is of a different type of nature that you have to address first to build a platform, so that when the ilm, the heavy knowledge, the heavy word, the weighty word, as Allah calls His Quran, when it settles upon that mind, you'll be ready for it. And the foundation for that mind is not fairy tales. They weaken our children's minds by loading them down with Mother Goose and all these other satires and symbolic renderings. And we're quick to talk about a follower of Imam W.D. Muhammad as dealing with the allegorical, but we don't go to those public schools that we have our children in.